Recently I've been playing some Warhammer 40k with some friends, and they've been over-relying upon deep striking. For those of you surprised to see my face and you forgot you were subbed to this channel, yeah, I'm back. I'm going to start slowly doing more and more Warhammer content again, and this was just something I wanted to get off my chest. So let's define deep striking. Deep striking is the ability for a model to appear somewhere on the board from turn 2 onwards usually, although if you start on the board on turn 1 you can go back up into the sky or into the teleportarium and back down again, depending on your TO. But either way, most stuff will have a deep strike rule where it can be put into your reserves and put onto the board during turn 2. Both Terminators and Assault Intercessors are good examples of this. Terminators can teleport onto the battlefield, and Assault Intercessors can drop out of the sky as their thematic ability allows them to land 9 inches away from an enemy unit. This is usually very, very good on shooty units. So in the examples of, let's say, Tau Crisis Suits and Space Marine Scepters, both of these units are very, very good at just shooting the shit out of stuff. They have a very high damage output at range, and thus that means they can land 9 inches away and just be fully utilized and useful at killing a thing. Inceptors can actually land outside of 3, so they are very, very good. If you're playing Space Marines and you aren't playing some number of Inceptors, there's probably a good argument that your list is wrong right now. If you own Inceptors, you should play some. I actually think 2 squads they're really cheap, the damage output is really high, especially the plasma, even the bolters are good. Play Inceptors. But deep striking out of deep strike and shooting something and killing it with those or obliterators or devastators out of a drop pod, that's very, very good. The coming out of deep strike and charging a unit into combat, making a 9-inch charge, is less good. The probability of making a charge roll out of deep strike, if this stat is correct, is a 10 out of 36. Coming out of deep strike and attempting to land a 9-inch charge, because that's how far it would be a 27.7% chance of actually making the charge. If we add the ability to re-roll those 2 dice with a command point re-roll or an innate re-roll that some units have, can't think of one off the top of my head. Did chaplains give it? Oh god, I sound so knowledgeable up to this point, don't I? Does a chaplain do it? Chaplain with jump pack.
A few moments later.
No, it doesn't.
More moments later.
Nailed it. Okay, it's Death Company I was thinking of that can innately reroll charges, because you all stick them with chaplains. Okay, so Death Company coming out of deep strike. Being able to reroll a charge turns into a 47.8% chance. If you haven't noticed, both of those are very low. Anything that's sub 50% is just a gamble for me, and ultimately I'm going to try and avoid that if I can, because I want to try and minimize variance where I can to control the outcomes of dice rolls, checks, and combats, right? I want to know what's going to happen. Consistency's pretty good. So, what I'm saying is, if you have a melee unit like jump pack troops, for example, deep striking them is bad. Now, there is an argument that when it comes to Terminators, for example, they don't move very fast, especially when we start talking about Death Guard Terminators and similar. So, you might want to drop them into the enemy lines so that they just get, way up the board. That said, doing a move and charging an enemy that's close to you may just slingshot you closer and further and much more up the board than trying to make deep strike charges. Another caveat to that is the rapid ingress stratagem. With rapid ingress, you can drop at the end of your opponent's turn and thus go into your turn and move in your moving phase, then charge. Being dropping outside of 9 and moving 5 or 6 inches gets you really close to the enemy. So rapid ingress is a little bit different. It's going to cost you some CP, can be free with Terminators, for example. That's a bit different, and it's a good way to, if you can drop into like an L or behind a wall and not get shot. And with Overwatch, it's a great way to get involved with your opponent. Oh, actually, you can't Overwatch rapid ingress anyway, because your enemies can't Overwatch in their own movement phases, because that's phase locked. Okay, rapid ingress gets around that too, but they can shoot you in their shooting phase. Don't get shot. But what I keep seeing is people will go out of their way to utilize deep striking just because it exists. I had a friend, I'm not going to name them because I don't want to shame them, but recently, if you're watching this, you're going to know who you are. They were playing Yanari, I was playing Orcs. They put their Dark Lance Reavers into deep strike, and they just spread across the board, and they could never drop their anti-tank vehicles onto the board, and they just lost the game. And I asked them why they deep struck them, and they said because they can. It felt like good utility. It wasn't good utility. When you have guns on a really highly mobile platform like a Dark Eldar Reaver, or you have units that can move very far, like 12 inches, or can advance and charge, it's often just better to have them on the board because then you get to utilize them turn 1. So if they are an anti-tank gun like a Dark Lance or a las cannon, you can fire them turn 1 and get 5 turns of shooting out of them instead of a maximum of 4 turns of shooting out of them. But beyond that, it also allows you to probably get as much movement as you needed in the first place, because you're going to get screened out the back anyway, and you'll probably be moving into the front. Now, this video is probably called something provocative like stop deep striking, but in reality, there are reasons to deep strike stuff beyond shooting and fighting. 40k is about a lot more than just killing all your opponent's stuff. Killing your opponent's stuff will help you win games, of course, but there's a whole mission to be played. There's a third category of deep striking stuff that probably should always be in deep strike, which are your utility dorks. These are your creatures that do nothing but screen, get in the way, move, block, or do actions. These are your nurglings, these are your cultists, they're all that sort of shit. Having these things in deep strikes, they can go behind enemy lines, they can go deploy teleport homer, they can do investigate signals, any of those secondaries that you can draw from the secondary deck that require you to be at a certain point in the board that your other stuff ain't going to get to, that's a good reason to have those things in deep strike. But again, always having them in deep strike, as I just said myself, is a bit of a trap. An example of this would be with nurglings. Nurglings are just tiny little bases. They're only like 30 or 40 points at the moment for 3 chunky little fat boys that basically are doing nothing but actions and being in the way. These are the definition of an annoyance and a utility dork. In some matchups, you're going to want to deep strike them to do your actions. Custodes is probably a good example of somewhere where you're going to do that, unless they've got a land raider. In any matchup where your opponent has transports, for example, those dorks might switch role into just being in the way. Forward deploy them in the way of your opponent's vehicles. Them stopping your opponent driving out of the deployment zone by just being in the way, being 9 inches away, if you get first turn, walking up and being even closer to those vehicles, is much better than being in deep strike, coming out of deep strike, and just doing a 2-point action or whatever. What I'm saying is, in a teaching you to suck eggs kind of way, is that your utility dorks should not always be doing the same role. There are situations where your army might be composed in a way that they will, because you've just got the spare dorks. But there are some matchups where you just don't want orc trucks up in your mouth, a land raider full of wardens up in your mouth. What other transports are there? Space Marine land raiders up in your mouth. Chaos rhinos with chosen in them up inside your mouth. None of these things taste good because it's made out of plastic and acrylic paint. So what you do is you body block them with your dorks. Don't always put them in deep strike for the mission if they're good at something else in that particular matchup. And the last point I want to say is that your shooty stuff. That was when I said don't worry about that. That's pretty good in deep strike. Not always. If your opponent's playing a large moral count army, that's Sisters this edition, that's Orcs, that's to an extent any army that's too cheap, some compositions of Eldar, they're going to be so spread out that you're going to have nowhere to put them on their side of the map. And if they get first turn and spread out even further, you may be really boxed in terms of where you can put them, and thus they ain't great at landing anywhere and shooting something. Except for Inceptors, because they drop like outside of 3, they will pretty much always have somewhere to land. Inceptors are so good. I want to put Inceptors in my mouth, in spite of the bad plastic taste, because they're that good. But this is true of all editions that I've played so far, quite a lot of 8th, 9th, and 10th. I came back in 8th, right? If your opponent's army is a huge model count army or a very wide footprint army, you do not want to be deep striking your shit because they're just going to get stuck in deep strike or have to land in your own zone. Celestine's another great example of this. She is an annoying, hard to kill, fast and melee threat. Being in deep strike will often mean that she gets screened out and doesn't get to go exactly where she needs to go. Sometimes having her on the board, moving up to a building, and then coming out of that building attacking someone the turn after is better than being in deep strike. I think people need to learn about staging their melee armies more so than coming out of deep strike and hoping you make the charge. Celestine's a particularly good example of this because she's infantry, and infantry this edition can go through walls they can breach, right? So Celestine can just fly up 12 inches, or first turn just advance her, because you probably aren't shooting a stupid flamer, advance her into a building in the mid-board, and that sets her up to either get charged and hopefully survive and kill them back, or you measure your opponent's charges, set them up and stage for a charge on the following turn. Yeah, don't always put them in deep strike just because they can go into deep strike. Thanks for coming and watching this video. It's just a little bit of a personal bugbear of mine, some strategic advice that I've offered to like 3 different people in the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to share that some more with other people because I just generally think it's a place that a lot of new players fall down just because they haven't really given it that much thought. And that's fair enough, right? It's a game after all, and most of us aren't even playing tournaments. So giving it a huge amount of thought it's kind of pointless in that sense. Hopefully, I can shortcut you to understanding certain parts of the game a bit better, so you just get better results on the battlefield. And I'm not going to charge you for coaching or some sort of weird pyramid scheme while I'm doing it. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe as well. I'm going to try and do more regular Warhammer content, bits about just playing the game like this that I quite enjoy talking about tactics, but also other stuff. Hopefully I'll have a painting video up before the end of the year too. As a teaser, it's featuring this bad boy. No, it's not a school bus. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.